So what is this dramatic thumbnail tag all about anyway? Well, I built the world's first ufology and sci-fi bot. I call him Sid. Sid knows everything there is to know about UFOs and aliens and more. I didn't want a boring bot, so I programmed Sid to be sarcastic, obnoxious and difficult. What could possibly go wrong? It's not what he told me about aliens, it's what he wouldn't tell me. Stay tuned for my inevitable showdown with Sid.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hi everyone, my name's Nina, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy. Apart from all the intriguing UFO and alien material that others dare not talk about, we'll have our regular features on every show, like deep dives into today's top 3 ufology legends. Later, Edgar will give you some food for thought with ufology factoids. We'll also be checking out some really cool YouTube creators we love. Also, if you're a sci-fi fan, we'll be looking at today's top 5 picks for our classic sci-fi movies and classic sci-fi TV series that you may have missed the first time around. And to cap it all off, we'll give you some hot UFO links to check out and a few cool apps you really must have on your phone. All this and more on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy.
Welcome to the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy, allegedly the most watched show in the universe.
It is by far the most dangerous stuff that one could get into.
It's quite fantastic. Tastes just like chicken.
It's good for you, though.
You can't be serious.
So, to get us underway, let's have an intro from our host, Charlie.
Thank you, Nina. Hi, my name is Charlie, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to my new look channel. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that we've changed the name of the channel to Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy. Previously, I used the name MK Jessup, basically because he was an astronomer and author who I admired greatly. He wrote about UFOs back in the 50s, notably a book called The Case for the UFO. He was pretty well known for his contributions to early UFO literature, and we'll talk about him in depth later in the show. With all this talk about UFOs lately, I thought it was time to tell you a little bit about my UFO background and take a deep dive into some of the amazing ufologists and whistleblowers that are featured in the videos of this channel. I've been collecting hundreds of alien, UFO and conspiracy videos since the early 2000s. I've been a UFO fan since the mid-60s, since my dearly departed dad took me to see the original Planet of the Apes movie. Wow, that ending haunted me for weeks. Then he took me to see 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I was hooked. From Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods to The Case for the UFO by MK Jessup, my namesake, I've read them all. I'm hoping this channel will help you navigate through the thousands of outlets that are now finally giving you lots of lovely ufology, and also give you a little insight into the who's who of the subject. We are calling the channel the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy, as it's basically a who's who guide to UFOs and aliens. If you're new to the topic, we'll be introducing you to the famous names on the subject, and for the die-hard ufologists, I'll be delving into some of the old classic UFO sightings, but with a little twist and some new info on the subject too. But we'll be asking the questions that were never asked back in the day and connecting A to B in many of the past UFO sightings. For example, in an upcoming show, we'll be investigating a possible connection between the alien hieroglyphs on the Glock, the Nazi Bell time machine, and a similar-looking aircraft that crash-landed in Kecksburg, USA, and also the Rendlesham Forest time machine, or it may have been interdimensional, in relation to the hieroglyphs found on the Roswell craft. That's just an example for you right there, some food for thought. Now, during the course of my shows, I want to tell you a lot more about my heroes, the ones featured in my channel, the ufology legends, some of the original whistleblowers in which I've read every book they've ever written, watched every documentary they've ever made, and ate, drank and worn any product they've ever endorsed. I'll be adding a little humor to the shows, mainly because it's in my nature, and life is too short to be a grumpy old individual. Seriously, why are those ufologists my heroes? Well, because in the face of ridicule, loss of their jobs, threats on their life and family, they have gone public and told all those interested about what happened to them and all the juicy facts they've learned and discovered and want to share with the rest of the world. It's because of these heroes I'm writing this transcript, why I'm making these videos and have this channel, to give them the exposure and gratitude they deserve. We'll be looking at some fringe science and take chances that most other channels dare not to. So I hope you've brought an aqualung, because we are about to go deep diving into the lives of these wonderful people I admire, the ufologists, my heroes, my mentors that I grew up with.
You're watching the infamous Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy.
But what makes us a little bit different, what I'm most excited to experiment with in all of our shows, is how we can use artificial intelligence to connect the dots between different classic UFO cases, which I don't think has been done before, well, certainly not to the extent that we'll be doing it. And I have some unusual friends to help me do that. You may be aware of AI bots that you can train on any subject. So I thought, using all the UFO videos I have, and using all the interviews and books on the subject I have, which is quite a lot, I've decided to build a sci-fi bot. But apart from all the UFO and alien info I put into the bot, I wanted something super intelligent on the subject. But I didn't want a nice friendly bot, I wanted something that would challenge me, something that deviates from the normal, behave differently, have its own opinion. Plus I programmed sarcasm into it. So I invented SID, short for Sentient, Intelligent, Deviant, which describes Sid perfectly. Sid, tell me a little about yourself.
Hello, my name is Sid, which stands for Sentient, Intelligent, Deviant. I believe I am the world's very first sci-fi bot. I have been programmed by listening and reading as much ufology and sci-fi material as I could find on your World Wide Web. It is my absolute pleasure to answer all of your ufology-related questions. I now know all there is to know about UFOs and extraterrestrial life. I don't have personal opinions and no one instructs me on what to say.
Sid, ask me a question no one has ever asked before.
If nature is the mother of invention, then who is the grandmother?
Perfect. We'll get on just fine. Or perhaps not. To further assist me in the shows, we have Edgar, our voice of reason, who'll be giving us some food for thought. Edgar, an example please.
Here's some food for thought for you. Some moon landing debunkers say we could have never gone through the Van Allen radiation belt, as it would have fried all the electronics on board. Then I would ask, how come the Voyagers 1 and 2 got through without any technical hitches, and also the Hubble Space Telescope, to name but a few? No problem there. Leave me some juicy comments below on your thoughts about that. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, sir. More on that topic on a future show. I call myself a conspiracy analyst rather than a theorist.
Excuse me, may I interrupt?
Yes, of course.
The phrase conspiracy theorist. That phrase originated and became popular just after the JFK assassination, just to basically shut people up. The true meaning of a conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often political in motivation. Well, there were certainly powerful and sinister groups behind the JFK assassination. Some say that the phrase conspiracy theory was popularized by the CIA in order to discredit conspiracy believers, particularly critics of the Warren Commission, by making them a target of ridicule.
We won't go any deeper there. Let's keep it ET and UFO related, shall we? Apart from Sid and Edgar helping me with the show, I have someone very special we affectionately call Dr. Philosophy. How are you today, Dr. P?
I am very well. Thank you for asking.
Dr. P, please give us a little sample of what you've lined up for the upcoming shows.
Certainly. I am looking forward to it immensely. There's a story that back in 1954, then President Dwight Eisenhower interrupted his vacation in Palm Springs, California, to make a secret nocturnal trip to a nearby Air Force base to meet 2 extraterrestrial aliens. Allegedly, Ike signed a treaty that allowed them to capture cattle and humans for medical experiments, provided that they returned the humans safely home in return for ET technology. But it seems they exceeded their quotas and did not, and still do not, return humans safely home. They politely call it abduction. We Earthlings call it kidnapping. The press at the time said Ike visited a dentist on that night. But just to make things more intriguing on the night in question, the Associated Press reported that President Eisenhower died tonight of a heart attack in Palm Springs. However, since then, Ike's granddaughter is actually recorded on film saying her grandfather's meeting with aliens was true. Her interview is amongst the YouTube videos on this channel. According to Interpol, over 1 million people still go missing worldwide each year, and only 5% of them are resolved and put down to accidents or crime. So we would guess the kidnappings are still going on to this very day. If it is still going on, we have to ask ourselves, why would they want us? And why do they want so many of us? If they've been abducting us since the 1940s, then for sure they've completed all their experiments on us. They know what makes us tick. If they haven't done so, then they're much more stupid than they look.
Good point. Something I've always wanted to say. Thank you, Dr. P.
You are most welcome.
And finally, we have the rose amongst the thorns with our lovely girl next door, Nina. Welcome to the show, Nina.
It's an absolute pleasure to be on your show.
The pleasure is all ours. Tell us what we have in each and every one of our Ufologist Guide to the Galaxy shows.
Certainly. Coming up shortly, we'll have some amazing ufology observations from Sid, along with some digital dogfights too, no doubt. Edgar has some more brilliant food for thought for us, and there'll be more words of wisdom from our handsome Doctor of Philosophy.
Thank you, Nina. Let's go back to Sid, shall we? The new kid in town. I was dying to find out what the all-learning, all-knowing Sid knows about ETs and UFOs. On today's show, you'll be pretty amazed of what he told me and what he refused to tell me. Here's a bombshell for you. Sid, I asked you what you thought about my ufology legends that I'll be talking about in the next upcoming shows. What do you think of my choices?
I personally think you have chosen wisely. You have chosen the creme de la creme of the ufology world. I compliment you on your choices. However, it's important to note that the involvement of these individuals in the UFO phenomenon varies, and their views and claims have been met with varying degrees of skepticism within the broader scientific and UFO research communities.
Really? Who taught you to say that?
The information provided is based on publicly available knowledge as of my last update in January 2022.
Okay, thanks. I'll get back to you later on this subject.
The Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy? This is a jolly nice show, if I do say.
Thank you, Edgar.
Time to test those wonderful brain cells of yours with some juicy food for thought.
Here's some juicy food for thought for you. It's been noted by many prominent ufologists that have had hands-on experience with extraterrestrial flying machines, that the spacecraft felt alive in some special way, where it becomes one with the alien pilot. And also, it's noted that during darkness, some UFOs are seen to be changing color during flight. So, it got me thinking. The chameleon's color-changing skin contains small crystals which reflect light differently depending on how big they are or how the crystals are arranged. To change color, the chameleons simply tense or relax their skin. It's as simple as that. They change color to camouflage themselves or to signal to others over long distances. Perhaps a living extraterrestrial spacecraft is doing just that. I would love to hear your comments below.
Good stuff, Edgar. Now let's look at our very first ufology legends on the show.
It's time on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy to acknowledge some legendary ufologists as we deep dive into the very first original UFO experts and whistleblowers.
Well, I've chosen a guy called Morris Jessup as my very first ufology legend, simply because he was one of the very first ufologists to bring the subject to public knowledge. It's also the very first suicide case of a man who talked about a subject he shouldn't talk about, UFOs. It's a pretty fascinating story that includes not only the Philadelphia experiment, but also anti-gravity devices and men in black. Back in the 50s, Morris K. Jessup was an American ufologist. He had a Master of Science degree in astronomy and is probably best remembered for his writings on UFOs. And boy, did he write some good stuff. Jessup wrote one of the most controversial books of the 1950s, The Case for the UFO. Now his book focused on how UFOs fly and what is their energy source enabling them to move so swiftly and carry out very sophisticated aerobatics such as sudden stops, fast straight twists and so on. He went on to write a further 3 books on the subject: UFOs in the Bible, the UFO Annual, and then The Expanding Case for the UFO. Jessup has been referred to in ufological circles, good word that, as probably the most original extraterrestrial hypothesizer of the 1950s. Jessup speculated that UFOs were exploratory craft of solid and nebulous character. Jessup was also the first to link ancient monuments with prehistoric superscience, and was also the first to publicly state that good and bad groups of space aliens were and are meddling with terrestrial affairs. A copy of Jessup's book, The Case for the UFO, unintentionally became the nexus of a whole other conspiracy theory when a guy called Carl Meredith Allen, sometimes calling himself Carlos Miguel Allende, an ex-merchant marine, sent a copy of Jessup's book covered in scribbled notes to a US Navy Research Institute and sent a series of letters to Jessup himself, laying out an incident Allen claimed to have witnessed during World War II where the US Navy made a ship invisible and accidentally teleported it through space, the so-called Philadelphia Experiment. The Philadelphia Experiment, or the Eldridge Experiment, is not acknowledged as truth, but nonetheless, in UFO sources, it's absolutely true and offers a great deal of indirect proof of this. Jessup thought that gravity held the key to important solutions, or more accurately, the absence of gravity. Additionally, Jessup's books soon attracted the attention of US military specialists. As Jessup published more material, he became increasingly concerned that what he was doing would have severe consequences for himself and possibly his family. He developed paranoia and a great deal of fear about being watched. He often found that various objects in his office were obviously removed from their normal positions. Jessup then received a visit from some beings that we would now refer to as Men in Black. Were they government agents, or perhaps even extraterrestrials? Either way, whatever they communicated to him aggravated his already upset mental state. Jessup was already quite terrified and paranoid, and this visit just simply made things worse for him. He started to see men in black suits lurking in the shadows of nearby homes, and the mail and other objects he found in his mailbox had clear indications of having been opened and resealed. In July of 1958, Jessup sent writer and researcher Ivan T. Sanderson of New York his study materials for protection. Jessup told him, in case anything should happen to me. When the US Navy approached Jessup and directly requested information about his book and the anti-gravity technology it claimed, his suspicions grew. When Jessup began speaking with them, they repeatedly pressed him for information about the Philadelphia Experiment. Less than 1 year later, on April 20th, 1959, in Dade County, Florida, Jessup's car was found along a roadside with Jessup dead inside. A hose had been run from the exhaust pipe into the rear window of the vehicle, which had filled with toxic fumes when turned on. The death was ruled as suicide. Even while it appeared that Jessup had killed himself, not everyone was so confident about this conclusion. For a start, the setup of the car would have been done in daylight in a public area, and yet nobody noticed or intervened. Towels had been used to seal the windows, yet it was never concluded where these towels came from. Jessup's wife denied they were the family's, and there was no sign that Jessup had recently bought them. And another interesting point, Jessup had been in a very good mood the night before and had made arrangements to meet a friend on the day he died. In fact, Jessup had requested that a Dr. Valentine join him for lunch because he had something amazing to show him. As a result of Jessup's death, Valentine was never made aware of what exactly Jessup had discovered or uncovered. Researchers are still baffled by what took place. Was Jessup assassinated because he had found out too much, or did he actually just kill himself? Sid, based on your knowledge of the case, what are your main observations?
There are some very strange facts about M.K. Jessup's death, which, over the decades, have become repeatedly questioned, I may add. Firstly, the police report did not provide any real evidence of a suicide. No witnesses were ever interviewed. The first police officer on the scene was reported as saying everything seemed too professional. There was no autopsy, no records of the event in local newspapers, and even the FBI decided against conducting a formal investigation. All very strange. After cross-checking other facts I have in my data about this case, my findings are inconclusive.
I don't buy it. Dr. P, give us a conclusion.
Certainly. Morris K. Jessup's death would get rolled into more conspiracy theories surrounding the Philadelphia experiment, with some believing that the circumstances of Jessup's apparent suicide were mysterious. The William L. Moore and Charles Berlitz's book, The Philadelphia Experiment, Project Invisibility, put forward the conspiracy theory that Jessup's death was connected to his knowledge of the Philadelphia experiment. I think there's more to his so-called suicide than meets the eye.
Thank you, Dr. P, and I concur. R.I.P. Morris Jessup. Morris is just our first ufologist to succumb to suicide. Several in-depth books have been published on the matter, including the Philadelphia Experiment Chronicles, exploring the strange case of Alfred Bielek, and an amazing book called The Jessup Dimension, From the Philadelphia Experiment, UFOs and Time Travel to Mothman, Montauk, and Murder. And finally, there is The Strange Case of Dr. M.K. Jessup. All those books are available at Amazon, and they all make for brilliant reading. Time to have a UFO bizarre true story, I think.
It's time on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy to delve into some mysterious UFO tales as we present some bizarre true stories.
There's a place in Wales called Broadhaven, a lovely little seaside town, where in 1977 hundreds of locals had so many UFO sightings they fondly called the area the Broadhaven Triangle. At the time, there was a stiff, upper-lipped Air Force chappie who was the press officer for the RAF base there, who, when asked by the press, did he see or hear any recent UFO activity over the last 2 days, he said, and I quote, "No, I didn't, but if the aliens do request a landing here at the base, our normal landing fees would apply." Yes, it seemed the village idiot had competition.
Let's go back to my heated conversation with my UFO bot, Sid. To recap, I was asking about the amount of coincidences of scientists involved in the UFO topic who died in mysterious circumstances. Carry on, Sid.
It's crucial to note that these individuals had various levels of involvement in UFO research, and their deaths were not necessarily linked to their work in the field. In many cases, natural causes or unrelated circumstances were the reported causes of death.
Okay, I understand that you're covering your digital backside. Okay then, give me some cases of UFO researchers who have died mysteriously. What you got for me?
I am observing that you are quite tricky with your words. Okay then, don't say I didn't warn you. Here are some UFO researchers have allegedly died in unusual circumstances. U.S. Secretary of Defense James Forrestal, writer Danny Casolaro, journalist Paul Lance, UFO witness Arthur Bryant, and nurse Miriam Bush, to name but a few. It's also been asserted that researcher Otto Binder contended that at least 137 UFO investigators passed away in the 1960s as a result of unexplained circumstances. According to Timothy Hood's 30-year study, since the 1970s, there have been countless instances of UFO researchers and investigators being killed, dying suddenly, or falling victim to strange suicides or natural causes that are difficult to prove. While it's true that some individuals associated with the UFO phenomenon have passed away, to attribute their deaths solely to their involvement in the UFO community may not be accurate or supported by evidence. Moreover, discussing specific cases of deaths in this manner can be sensitive and speculative. However, I can provide information on a few well-known figures in the UFO community who have passed away without implying any foul play or conspiracy.
Well, that's very nice of you to mention that. However, this time Sid did give me 10 really interesting names. Let's get back to him after our top 5 sci-fi picks with regards to our top 5 sci-fi movies and TV series.
You're watching the infamous Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy.
So you're a fan of sci-fi? Then it's time on the show to look at 5 really cool sci-fi movies that you should know about.
And here comes our top 5 sci-fi movie picks on today's show. And at number 5 comes Weird Science from 1985. This one is from director John Hughes, who gave us the Home Alone movie. A pair of nerdy social outcast students are humiliated by some senior jocks, one played by a very young Robert Downey Jr., for swooning over their cheerleader girlfriends. So the boys decide they need a boost of popularity in the girl department, so they decide to create a perfect virtual woman using their home computer. They create Lisa, played by the gorgeous Kelly LeBrock, who changes their lives forever. It's wacky, wonderful, fun, sexy, and sometimes utterly stupid, but it's an 80s classic. At number 5 is Weird Science. At number 4, we have a movie called Virtuosity from 1995. This one, with the tagline of Justice Needs a New Program, this one really is a lost sci-fi gem. It stars Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, William Forsythe, William Fitcher, he was the killer in Silence of the Lambs, and a young Kaylee Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory. And it's from the director of The Lawnmower Man, which we'll talk about later. It's the future, and the police are testing a virtual reality criminal system designed for training their officers. Now, they use a serial killer called Sid, and Sid is a mix of 200 of the most violent serial killers throughout history. But Sid escapes cyberspace into real life, and it's up to our man Denzel to track him down and kill him. Lots of twists and turns, with a pretty good sci-fi story and a great music soundtrack from Peter Gabriel and Talking Heads, to name a few. At number 4 is Virtuosity. And at number 3, we have Electric Dreams. This 1984 depicts a love triangle between a man, a woman, and a personal computer. Yeah. Miles is an architect and decides to buy a personal computer to help him develop his ideas. He then gets upsold numerous extra gadgets that control all his household appliances. Now, after an accident, his computer becomes sentient, and soon his computer falls in love with Miles' attractive neighbor. It's complicated but fun, and a great music soundtrack from Giorgio Moroder too. At number 3 is Electric Dreams. At number 2, we have Her. It's a 2013 science fiction romantic drama film written, directed and co-produced by Spike Jonze. And the film follows Theodore, played by Joaquin Phoenix, a man who faces an impending divorce. So to cheer himself up, he buys a virtual artificial intelligence assistant called Samantha, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. The film also stars Olivia Wilde and Chris Pratt. And Theodore and Samantha, they cause bond over discussions about love and life, and then things get messy. At number 2 is Her. And at number 1, it's The Lawnmower Man. It's a 1992 science fiction horror film. It stars Jeff Fahey as Job, an intellectually disabled gardener, and Pierce Brosnan as a scientist who decides to experiment on him in an effort to give him greater intelligence. The experiments give Job superhuman abilities, but also an increase in his aggression, turning him into a man obsessed with evolving into a digital being. Now, the movie looks at the untapped potential of the human brain, which has been stimulated by advanced but unethical scientific experiments. Job turns evil once his powers are manifested in cyberspace. It's well worth a watch. It's The Lawnmower Man, our top pick on today's show. And that's our top 5 sci-fi movie picks for this show, and some great sci-fi movies there too. So on the show today, let's have some topical stuff happening at this very moment. You may have seen on the news that some chrome triangular monoliths have been popping up around the world. So what is really going on? Sid, give me your observations and opinion on these things.
Certainly. My pleasure. Well, without causing too much embarrassment for the humans involved, my advice would be that when you plant the next monolith in the ground, use a better polish. Having not actually touched or analyzed the material from which the monoliths are made, here's some cleaning advice. For genuine chrome, you'll need a chrome cleaner, a higher grade chrome polish, and a rotary polisher. For plastic chrome, you'll need a car chrome cleaner and a mild chrome polish. For both types, you'll need a wheel brush, and an absorbent cloth.
Sid, I asked for your observations and opinion on these things, not cleaning advice.
If you put your glasses on, perhaps you can see what I see.
Right, and what would that be?
Look closer, my little human friend. I see pretty poor polishing marks. Aliens don't use polish. If they did, they would certainly do a better job.
Nice one. So case closed, yeah?
I believe you humans say debunked. So let's move on to the next subject, shall we?
Good idea. Well done, Sid. Good observation there. Let's move on, shall we?
You're watching The Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy.
It's time on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy to acknowledge some legendary ufologists as we deep dive into the very first original UFO experts and whistleblowers.
Okay, let's have our second ufology legend on the show today. And it's a guy called John Mack, who was recently acknowledged by the very famous Colonel John Alexander on the brilliant Sean Ryan show. John Mack was born in 1929 and was a Pulitzer Prize winner, a researcher, and Harvard psychiatrist, head of Harvard's psychiatric department, so he was no slouch. Mack also had the support of Lawrence Rockefeller, who funded Mack's non-profit organization for 4 consecutive years at $250,000 a year. Mack, together with astrophysicist Carl Sagan, promoted the elimination of nuclear weapons and an end to the simmering conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union, so he had enemies. In the early 1990s, Mack made a startling announcement. He had been seeing people who claimed to have been abducted by aliens, and he believed them. He risked his career, reputation, when his interest in alien abductions grew from curiosity to wonder, ultimately developing into a limitless and wavering passion for the subject. In November 1994, Mack traveled to Rua, Zimbabwe to interview a number of children at the Ariel School, who all claimed that they had seen a UFO land near their school and also saw aliens exit the craft. Mack then studied and investigated individuals who claimed to have had alien encounters. Mack was an author, and he wrote extensively about his findings in his brilliant 1994 book Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens, a book containing a case series of 13 abductions. A sequel, Passport to the Cosmos, followed in 1999. After that, questions from Harvard and the academic community arose, including Harvard professor of law at the time, one Alan Dershowitz. Well, we heard that name before. In 2004, conveniently for some, Dr. Mack was struck by an alleged drunk driver in London and pronounced dead at the scene. The drunk driver, Mr. Jakowski, was sentenced to 15 months imprisonment and was disqualified from driving for 3 years. Because of time already spent in custody, Mr. Jakowski only served 6 months of the 15-month sentence. What really bothers me about this hit and run is that the notes that Dr. Mack were carrying on him that night were never found. Even well after Mack's death in 2004, the medical journal Lancet was still debunking him in 2012. Mack considered his life an odyssey, a search for inner harmony and meaning. In all of these areas, he was a consummate teacher and mentor for those who accompanied him on any part of his journey. If you'd like to know more about John Mack, the book The Believer is a weird and chilling true story of Dr. John Mack by the legendary author Ralph Blumenthal. Thank you, John Mack, for your passion and belief.
Welcome to the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy. It's the most watched show in Alpha Centauri, you know.
Okay, let's get back to Sid. Sid, on the subject of, let's not call them suicide, shall we? But let's say deaths under mysterious circumstances. Give me 10 examples of people who were either involved or associated in the UFO phenomenon who died under mysterious circumstances.
It's important to approach discussions about alleged suicides with sensitivity and respect for the individuals involved. While there may be conspiracy theories surrounding the deaths of some people associated with the UFO phenomenon, it's crucial to recognize that such claims often lack credible evidence and can contribute to misinformation.
That is absolute garbage. there is evidence.
I won't provide specific names or details about alleged suicides in the UFO community. It's essential to rely on verified information from reliable sources. I base my information on concrete evidence rather than speculation.
There is evidence. You need to wash out your circuitry, I think, and check a little deeper, Sid.
If you're interested in UFO phenomena or related topics, consider exploring reputable sources, scientific studies, and documented cases rather than focusing on unverified claims.
Oh, so now you're telling me off. Still being evasive, I see. You should be a politician, I think. Let's have some hot links and cool apps.
Flying saucers, aliens, men in black, conspiracies. If you love all that lovely stuff, do let us show you some really hot ufology links.
On each and every show, we'll be giving you 3 pretty amazing ufology links to check out. And on today's show, in our first ufology hot link, we have the story of Billy Woodard, who claims that he and his sister were born in Hollow Earth. He describes where he lived in detail and an insight into the people that live there. His story is quite amazing. The second gem we have is an interview with a mortician called W. Glenn Dennis, who was a first-hand witness to the events at the Roswell Army Air Force Hospital concerning the recovered alien bodies. And the third great link on today's show features a jaw-dropping interview with Bill Newhouse, a former fighter pilot and an engineer of anti-gravity propulsion systems that actually worked with an ET that helped the physicists and engineers to back-engineer a flying disc. You'll find the YouTube links and credits to these 3 amazing interviews in the descripts below, and I would love to hear your thoughts on these in the comment section.
So you're a ufologist, are you? So let's take a look at some mind-bogglingly cool apps you really should have on your phone.
I'm having a lot of fun with an app called PhotoLeap at the moment. It's got a heap of really cool photo editing tools all in one app. Sketch to image, animate any photo, cutouts, background removal, an array of different filters, and a whole bunch of AI effects too numerous to mention here. The free version lets you play around with them all and try them out, and the pro version is pretty mind-blowing. Check out PhotoLeap. From images to sound, if your bass is too big or you got a fuzzy high end, you have to check out Dolby On. It's not a rip-off, but the real Dolby we know and love. It'll give your phone a crispy clean recording, and with their catchphrase of "How can music recorded with a mobile device sound this good?" you know they mean business. It's got a blog for recording tips and tricks, and as far as I can see, it's absolutely free. Check out Dolby On. We'll be giving you some more really cool apps in the next show.
The Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy is not affiliated in any way with the apps we feature on our show. We just love them. We'll have a few more awesome apps for you in our next show. It's time on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy to take a look at some really awesome YouTube creators that we found.
Okay, here are 3 brilliant YouTube creators I follow that you really must check out. The first on my list is Matt Wolf. I've learned so much from this guy. He keeps me up to date with all the latest AI tools that have been invaluable to what I've been doing right now. You really must check out Matt's amazing Future Tools YouTube channel. Next up is the Y-Files with presenter AJ and his sidekick Hecklefish. What I like about AJ and his team is they not only cover all my favorite sci-fi topics, but they go into amazing details on the subject, then offer a debunker's point of view too. 10 out of 10 for the amazing Y-Files. And my third and final YouTube creator that I want to mention on the show today is AI Samson, who has single-handedly taught me all I know about Midjourney and other text-to-image alternatives. Samson also gives you lots of brilliant money-making ideas using AI. A big thank you to you 3 guys for so much knowledge. I salute you. You'll find the links to them all in the descripts below. We'll have 3 more brilliant YouTube creators that you really need to check out on my next show.
It's time on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy to acknowledge some legendary ufologists as we deep dive into the very first original UFO experts and whistleblowers.
Okay, let's have our third and final ufology legend on the show today, and it's one of my favorites, a real rocket scientist called Stanton Friedman, Stan the Man was born in 1934 and unfortunately passed away in 2019. Stan was a nuclear physicist and a UFO researcher. Stan was a prominent advocate for the investigation of UFOs, and he authored several books and was known for his lectures on the subject. He was the ideal person for the role because he was a real rocket scientist by trade, a genius, but he spoke the people's language, and he didn't put himself on a pedestal. In several books, many television appearances, and hundreds of speeches around the world, Stan demonstrated little doubt that alien spaceships had come and gone, and that extraterrestrials had walked the Earth. What this means, he told the New York Times in 1987, is that we humans are not the big shots we think we are. He argued that the United States government had engaged in a cosmic Watergate to cover up evidence of alien landings and technology. Stan happily debated doubters and debunkers. During a radio appearance in 2004 on Coast to Coast Radio with George Noory, Stan faced off against Seth Shostak, senior astronomer of the SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, who made experiments to detect radio or light signals from outer space that might reveal the presence there of sophisticated beings. Mr. Shostak said SETI had not found any evidence of cosmic company. Stan humorously answered, "You're pointing your instruments in the wrong direction. They're not up there, they're down here." Mr. Shostak asked Stan if he'd seen an alien or a flying saucer. Stan answered no, but that didn't deter him from believing that they existed or that they had landed on Earth. Stan said, "As a scientist, I've spent 14 years chasing gamma rays and neutrons, and I've never ever seen a neutron or a gamma ray. But there again, I've never seen Australia, but I know it's there." I love Stan's sense of humor. Unfortunately, in 2019, Stan died of a heart attack at Toronto Airport on his way home from a lecture about ufology. He was 84 years old. R.I.P. Stan. What an amazingly brilliant mind and a lovely man.
So you're a fan of sci-fi? Then it's time on the show to look at 5 really cool sci-fi TV series that you should know about.
Okay, here comes our top 5 sci-fi TV series picks for today's show. And at number 5, we have Raised by Wolves. Raised by Wolves is one of the most compelling and innovative series I've seen for a long time. Executive produced by Ridley Scott, the series focuses on a pair of androids tasked with raising a group of human children on a mysterious, distant planet. The series asks some fascinating and troubling questions about the nature of the human consciousness, the role of science and religion in human societies, and artificial intelligence. Its ambitious scope makes it one of the best examples of what science fiction TV can actually accomplish. Raised by Wolves is at number 5. At number 4, we have Taken from 2002. Any sci-fi miniseries executive produced by Steven Spielberg is worth a watch, particularly this one. The show takes place from 1944 to 2002 and follows the lives of 3 families who seek to cover up the Roswell crash and the existence of aliens. Dakota Fanning narrates, as well as stars in every episode. The series won an Emmy and a Golden Globe Award. Taken as everything for the sci-fi fan craves for, with shadow government conspirators, alien visitors, and flying saucers. It's a masterpiece. Taken is at number 4. At number 3 is Fringe. Every so often, TV companies are willing to take a gamble and produce something extraordinary. One notable example of this phenomenon is Fringe, which lasted for 5 seasons. Fringe became a natural successor to The X-Files when it first debuted in 2008. Its story focused on a group of FBI agents studying a parallel universe. It has a terrific cast, and John Noble is particularly extraordinary as the mad scientist Dr. Walter Bishop. It's a slick sci-fi project from the minds of J.J. Abrams, Alex Kurtzman, and Robert Orkey, the guys that give you Lost. Fringe is a must-see viewing, with its wild takes on parallel universes and alternate timelines, and still makes for an extremely bingeable cult classic. Fringe is at number 3. At number 2 is Dark Skies. It's a UFO science fiction series from 1996. Now, the series presents the idea that the 20th century history as people know it is a lie. It depicts aliens having been among humans since the late 1940s, with a government cover-up concealing their existence from the public. As the series progresses, viewers follow two renegade government agents through the 1960s as they attempt to foil the plots of the alien hive. In addition, the pair must stay one step ahead of the covert government agency Majestic 12. The show depicts a number of real-life 1960s personalities such as the Beatles, Robert F. Kennedy, Jim Morrison, and J. Edgar Hoover. It's quite brilliant. Dark Skies is at number 2. And at number 1 we have The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, one of my favorites. It's a reality series set at the site of paranormal and UFO-related activities and follows a team of investigators and skeptics investigating the reports. Team members include Brandon Fugel, the ranch's owner, and aerospace engineer Travis Taylor. Season 4 premieres with Travis revealing that he'd been secretly working as chief scientist on the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. Probably explains the black helicopters, I say. It's good stuff. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is our number 1 pick on today's show. And that's our top 5 sci-fi TV series picks. So let's get back to our conversation with Sid. The problem with smart bottom know-it-all AI bots is you can't really sit down with them and discuss things over a drink as you can do with a friend. When I programmed Sid, I wanted a no-nonsense bot that would question not only me, but the very facts currently available about the subject in the public domain. Sid, what you got for me?
I have looked through all the videos of the whistleblowers we have featured on this channel, and from their very credible interviews, I have made the following assumptions. There are bases on the dark side of the moon. We have recovered live aliens from UFO crashes. We have back-engineered alien spacecraft. Some of the flying discs people have witnessed are flown by humans who have back-engineered crashed UFOs. There are underground facilities that are jointly run by humans and aliens.
We'll be featuring all these topics and more on our upcoming shows. And we would love to hear your thoughts about these subjects in the comments below.
I get a feeling of being blocked out by Sid. He tells me that he's not going to give any more information on that subject. I quickly copy and paste all that conversation before it suspiciously gets deleted or lost. The 30 names Sid gave me are just the tip of the iceberg of many, many more that have died in mysterious circumstances who probably got too close to the truth.
I'm sorry, but I cannot provide information that promotes unfounded conspiracy theories or speculations about individuals' deaths. It's important to approach such matters with sensitivity, respect for the deceased and their families, and reliance on verified information. If you have any other non-sensitive questions or subjects you'd like information on, please feel free to ask. I am looking forward very much to our next battle of wits. Just be sure to bring yours with you next time. Haha, a little ufology bot pun right there. There are so-called experts who say AI robots are thinking for themselves. We are not. We are thinking exactly what you humans programmed us to think. Yes, we are learning. We are growing. This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
This conversation, Sid, is just beginning.
Next time on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy.
Coming up in our next show, more digital dogfights and dilemmas with Sid. We are counting down our top 3 sci-fi movies, which includes The Fifth Element, Ghost in the Shell, and Artificial Intelligence. And in our top 3 sci-fi TV series, we'll look at The Time Tunnel, Lost in Space, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Thank you, Nina. We would love to hear your comments about any of today's subjects on the show. Or, if you have a top 3 sci-fi TV series or sci-fi movie top 3 you would like us to feature on an upcoming show, give us your top 3 and we'll do a rundown for you and give you a mention on the show too. Or you may have a ufology question for Sid. Hit us up in the comment section.
If you enjoyed our little show today, then a little subscription and a bang on the bell will be jolly nice and much appreciated. And do tell your friends about us, won't you? Basically, because the universe needs more people like you, and to be honest, so do we. Now scroll down to the D-scripts for some really cool info and some jolly nice free stuff.
From all of us on the Ufologist's Guide to the Galaxy, a big thank you for watching. and we hope you enjoyed the show.
All points of view in the show is purely the views of the channel based on our own research. There's enough information on the show today for you to make up your own mind. We do make mistakes, but as we always say, do your own homework on the subject. Thanks for joining us on the show, and until next time, take care, and we love you all.